This video is going to be the first in a series of videos on the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Each video in this series will cover either one individual or a group of individuals who either took part in the planning of the assassination, took part in the assassination itself, or took part in the cover-up. We begin this series with a man named David Harold Byrd. David Harold Byrd was a big Texas oil producer from the 1920s to the 1960s, a co-founder of the Civil Air Patrol, which Lee Harvey Oswald became a member of in July 1955, and a good friend of President Lyndon Baines Johnson. In addition to being a good friend of LBJ, he was also a member of the Suite 8F Group, a group of politically powerful Texas businessmen which derived their name from the room in the Lamar Hotel where they held their secret meetings. Other members of this group included Texas Governor John Connally, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Sam Rayburn, and of course, President Lyndon Johnson. In his autobiography, I'm an Endangered Species, Byrd said, "Another goal was to reach a rapport with the politicians who ran things, especially at the seat of the state government in Austin. Sam Rayburn, Maury Shepard, John Connally, and Lyndon Johnson on the national scene were to become men I could go to any time that I wanted action." I'm going to skip past Byrd's childhood and his formative years because they aren't very important to the JFK assassination. But if you want to dive a little deeper, my sources for this video are in the description below, and some of them include information about this time. I'm actually going to skip past the first 30 or so years of Mr. Byrd's life and take us to the 1930s. In the 1930s, after amassing a small fortune in the oil industry, David Byrd invested some of his fortune in real estate, buying a number of properties, including a building that he bought in 1939, which was located at 411 Elm Street in Dallas, Texas, and which would later become the home of the Texas School Book Depository. 5 years later, in 1944, he founded the Byrd Oil Corporation, later selling it to Mobil, which is now ExxonMobil, and in 1952 he founded the Three States Natural Gas Company, which he sold in 1961 to the Delhi Taylor Oil Corporation. Using the profits from the sales of his companies, Byrd decided to invest in aircraft production, co-founding Temco Aircraft. Later that year, he merged his company with the electronics company of his friend James Ling and with the aircraft manufacturer Chance Vought Corporation to form a new defense contracting company, Ling Temco Vought. In the spring of 1962, President John F. Kennedy announced a plan to withdraw troops from Vietnam. This announcement caused the stocks of defense contracting companies and other companies that benefit from war to fall. In November of 1963, David Byrd, along with his friend James Ling, bought 132,000 shares of Ling Temco Vought at a good discount, just before leaving for a 2-month safari in Africa. Mr. Byrd returned from his trip to find that his good friend Lyndon Johnson had become president, that his Dealey Plaza property had become infamous, and that his recent investment increased tremendously in value. His shares shot up in value because although JFK was planning to pull troops out of Vietnam, it was widely known that LBJ, who had just ascended to the presidency, was very pro-war and did not have intentions of pulling soldiers out. Upon returning from Africa, Byrd had the window from which Oswald supposedly fired the fatal shots removed and mounted on the wall of his mansion, displaying it like a trophy. A month later, in February 1964, President Johnson granted the first defense contract of his presidency to none other than Ling Temco Vought to build the A-7 Corsair II. According to Peter Dale Scott, author of The Dallas Conspiracy, Byrd and Ling's investment profited them around $50 million, which is equivalent to nearly $500 million in today's money. So why might David Byrd be motivated to take part in the assassination of John F. Kennedy, or hide foreknowledge of JFK's assassination. Perhaps for the same reason that other big Texas oil guys, like Clint Murchison or Sid Richardson, might. Because JFK promised to eliminate the 27.5% oil depletion allowance, which would have cost them hundreds of millions of dollars every year by raising their taxes. All of this information is, of course, highly suspicious, but it is not enough to prove that David Harold Byrd had foreknowledge of JFK's assassination plot, nor had anything to do with it.